coming on Saturday morning. This is awesome. So we're going to start talking about the health, freedom, sovereignty, and what we're going to do today is Mr. Dwayne Leak is going to be talking first. He's going to talk about all the root cause analysis and status. He's going to be talking about the facts, all his findings. He has a huge background, which I'll go over in a second. And we'll have a little question and answer on the past and all the facts. And then Mike Bowden and Angie Fisher will talk on going forward, some of the things that have helped along the way and where we're going in the future and what we need to be prepared for. And I might end up with a little bit of information myself. So first hour we'll be talking with Dwayne and question and answer, okay? So if you need to use the restroom, you might be an intermission, but we can go from there. So Dwayne Lee is a PhD. He's actually, Dwayne, you want to come up here and
turn my mic on?
Your mic is on.
Oh, good.
So he's a part of the South Carolina Public Healthcare Integrity Committee. You see his little back pocket there. Maybe you push forward the next slide.
Hold on a minute.
All right.
Okay, folks. You don't have your masks on.
That's awesome.
I was wondering why.
Let me tell you something, folks. This is a pandemic of a flatulent. You have to wear your masks now and get your shots. You know those shots. So I expect you to wear your masks from now on. Oh, wait a minute. This is Simpsonville. Didn't the mayor just say no mandates?
Yes.
He did. All
Yes.
right.
He did.
We can get rid of our flatulent
That's
masks.
right.
Okay.
He did say that the other night, that he wouldn't, even though he likes the N95 masks. He did say he would not mandate, and he lost when the city council all got together, just to let you guys know. City of Simpsonville, he tried to get the mask mandate, our current mayor, but the city council overvoted him, however you say that, overruled him. So that was awesome.
Yes.
So we're safe
Yeah.
now in Simpsonville.
Yeah, he's
We
done.
have to think, yeah, he's done.
He's
And we have to just make sure our county can stay in, and our governor can stay the same. So, Dwayne's gonna finish, he has a PhD, actually several PhDs. You can tell him?
Yeah,
I'll let
I'll go.
Dwayne do all that. All right, thank you.
Let me deal with what are the important things to say. The first thing is that I'm a keynote speaker at the Tuesday meeting, and what I'm going to do is present my presentation for the Tuesday meeting here to try it out and watch your faces and see how you respond to it. Although I'm talking to a different audience there, they're less informed, and so we'll just have to deal with it. But basically, there is on Tuesday, starting about 10 o'clock and then running till whenever. This is very unprecedented that we get a full day, and who knows how long it'll last, because they didn't put a back end on it. A presentation. Now the presentation will include a well-known speaker who deals with the legal aspects more than anything else of this whole thing. And then I deal from a CIO, from a manager of a healthcare organization in the area of data and disease management. I come from that area in one of my careers. And so I'm keep talking about it from a project management point of view. I'm looking at the performance, I'm looking at where the performance failed, and I'm presenting what the solutions are to the performance failures. So that would be of most interest and of most understanding to most folks, because when you get deep into the biophysics and all the different long words that they have, it'll snow you. And one of the things that I have as one of the fixes is that people have to get smarter, because right now most people are getting, they just don't understand. And their message to me, even when I was creating this, is keep it simple.
Right.
Is there a simple? There is no simple to this. We have evolved because of our science into a non-simple environment. You get rid of your cell phones, you get rid of your social media, you get rid of AI, you get rid of your television, then we'll be back to keep it simple. But you can't keep it simple in the environment that we're in, and especially with the oligarchy that's running this. The oligarchy are all techies, and they're going to be wanting to create serfs out of all of us. So we have to be very careful. So that's kind of my background message that I really wouldn't say if I were talking to the politicians about and the deep staters. But I'm telling that to you, that you'll see how far I can go. Am I going too far when I say what I'm going to be saying? Because I'm turning them in. I'm turning them in this presentation that I'm going to be presenting to them. So on Tuesday, we're having a meeting. I speak, I think, the first in the afternoon. We have about 6 doctors that will talk about adverse events and effectiveness and the impact on their patients. We have a doctor that's going to talk about the impact of doctors that the protocols have had on doctors and them getting fired and shut up and stuff. That's all going to be talked about. We're going to have a specialist that's been inside of science that's going to talk about what really is happening inside of science, where the pharmas and the healthcare providers are controlling the money that then controls the science, that then controls the information, that then controls the misinformation. So he'll be talking about, so we're going to be covering all the issues. It's taken 3 years to put this together. Not because it would take us 3 years to do it, but because we had to get far enough along that maybe all the people that were responsible could say, no, we're not, we didn't really say that. To get far enough away so that they won't be held responsible. Now, what we need to do as part of creating integrity, that's why we chose the word integrity. Part of integrity is being responsible and holding those responsible for what they've done. So that's the presentation there. Now let's see if we can get it back to it. This is a problem with technology. I got this one out of there. So my presentation, let's see if this works.
And click on the slide first.
I'm getting there.
Use the.
So my career started out in 1962 when I started AI research. So I've been in AI research since 1962 till today. The major part of my career was as a program manager at IBM in the semiconductor design area, where I designed the Intel processor and the RISC processor. They're always on teams. You don't do this yourself, but I was on, and then the manufacturing methods, and particularly the manufacturing methods. I also I started the computer science department at Michigan State, and the guy I worked with was Carl Page, and Larry Page was his son. When I worked with Carl, we worked on reverse search algorithms and effectiveness. And Larry Page, who knows who Larry Page was? One person knows who Larry Page. Who owns Google? Who started Google? Larry Page. Guess whose algorithm he used? Well, back when we developed it, back in the 60s, there wasn't enough computing power to do that reverse search. And so we couldn't do it. Larry Page, when he went over and worked with Sergey at Stanford, he'd get up at night and he'd take over the entire computer center at Stanford and use that illegally to get his stuff done. So, it's kind of subterfuge. Anyway, I was on the school board for 10 years. I'm a biophysicist, one of my degrees. And my assignment on Tuesday is to assess the performance of the COVID year 19 management, and both in the science and in the management, political management area. I'm going to be talking about root causes, and as a prologue, I'd like to point out that the primary root cause, or the mother of all root causes, is the loss of integrity. What we've had in our government, in our healthcare, in our education, in our politicians, and in our political parties, from our point of view, is we don't trust them anymore. And that's the real societal problem we have right now. So we formed about almost 3 years ago, the South Carolina Public Care Integrity Committee to deal with the problem of integrity. And we use this symbol here. Integrity is trust, accountability, and performance. And so we were trying to gather all the information that would deal with how to bring integrity back. And this is kind of the result. What is integrity? Well, C.S. Lewis says that integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is looking. Integrity is a foundational moral virtue and the bedrock upon which good character is built. Acting with integrity means understanding, accepting, and choosing to live in accordance with one's principles, which will include honesty, fairness, and decency. A person of integrity will consistently demonstrate good character by being free of corruption and hypocrisy. Integrity is revealed when people act virtuously regardless of the circumstance or consequences. This often requires moral courage. Indeed, integrity is the critical connection between ethics and moral action. Now that comes as a definition. Then, from a political point of view, it means doing what's right, even if it means not taking money from big farmers in the feds. And of course, we'll get to the root causes. Okay, and Robert Malone says, what is the overall arc of the COVID crisis? I suggest 2 words, perspective and ethics. Many lost their ability to maintain an objective perspective to accurately assess reality, partly because of their mental and psychological space in reality was actively manipulated using a variety of Orwellian modern psychological manipulating methods deployed by governments, financial organizations, industry, particularly pharma and media, and non-governmental globalist organizations like the Gates Foundations, WHO, WEF, and the UN. But above all, and beyond even this, was the wholesale jettisoning of any and all commitments to fundamental ethical principles. Now, one of my jobs at IBM for about 6 years was to go into organizations where there was a defective process. Something was wrong with the way that part of the business was running. And it always boiled down to this kind of stuff. You had to start with the principles first. They had the wrong principles. And to get to those, it would take 2 or 3 years before you got down and boil it down, get the money out of it. What are you really after? And you'd find out that the foundation was wrong, and you'd have to rebuild that foundation. It's not just ethics that we're concerned about, though. Ethics, from our point of view, like I'm the guy that's doing everything. Ethics, from your point of view, is trust. And it's an essential standard. That's essential for science and for medicine, trust. And what about our government health agencies? And it says here, just because I've been wrong about everything doesn't mean that the guidance is invalid. And then I said, actually, yes, that's exactly what it means. Now, there's a father of all root causes, too, and I've mentioned it before. Keep it simple. We are in a generation that, because of everything that's going on, but it's also historic, that keep it simple. I don't really want to work at finding a solution. I don't want to spend my time on it. I got more important things to do, like watching football. So keep it simple.
Yeah.
Now I'd like to talk to you about encyclopedias. And I'd like to talk to you about the Desert Encyclopedia salesman. This salesman, and and I've got to get back over here on this side. If I can get over here. This is the kind of thing where you have to learn how to get this stuff showing up. Well, because I have a little script here, and I want to make sure I get started right. Well, he was in the middle of the desert. He wasn't sure of the way, so he stopped at a roadside oasis, and he asked the short man that looked like he knew what he was going to say. I think his name was Fauci. Yeah, it was Fauci. For directions on how to get out the next time. And and the guy said, keep it simple. I don't have time. Keep it simple. So, Fauci. Okay, keep it simple. You go that way. So, let me see what's going on here next. Better learn this by tomorrow. So, the guy went on his way. He found out that there were gullies in the way. He found out that he lost his health. He broke his arm. He got malaria. He was put in a cell for a week by some bandits. All of his money was taken. And he was utterly ruined. Well, he came back by and he found Fauci again and said, why did you send me on that way? And Fauci said, well, you asked for the simple way, and so I gave you the simple way. But, oh, I forgot one thing. You should have worn a mask. So the point that I'm making again is that keeping it simple isn't simple. All right, now I'm going to go into some of the details, and I'm going to go really fast through the details. The virus was lab developed. There's no doubt about that. It was developed for gain of function. We just had a renewal of the contract. Actually, the contract proposal, request for proposals went out yesterday. There was a $5 million contract to North Carolina, and there's going to be another $5 million contract for another center of competence to develop gain of function stuff. This all goes through third parties. It doesn't go directly to the government. It goes to someplace else, and the government puts it off country somewhere. It used to be Ukraine. Now it's in China. Who knows where it'll be next? All we see are lies. This is the matter of trust. It was a wet market. It's various animals. The experts come out and claim it wasn't the source, and we never were really informed. Did DHEC do anything? Did DHEC tell us anything? Did DHEC say anything about the source? What would happen if we'd known the source right from the beginning? Well, we begin to get a problem of distrust. Matter of fact, for this kind of stuff, not only should there be severe consequences for the people that developed it, but for the people that lied about it, and for the people that lied about it, 2 and 3 levels down. Risk management and an understanding of human nature suggests this will happen again. We've done this, put nothing in place, and we're already seeing it. I wrote this back in July. We're already seeing it happen again.
Oh, it's happened.
How can we stop it? Now let's talk about effectiveness. The government trials, were theater. They were not, the government trials were not even required by the DOD, which led the contract. The DOD had nothing, no specifications, no requirements for quality testing. No specifications, no requirements for effectiveness. So anything that you see that quote the FDA did only, and well, it wasn't Pfizer. Pfizer did nothing. Pfizer was just a contractor. Pfizer was not a manufacturer. There are other companies that were manufacturers. Actually, this gives us a way to sue them because Pfizer did nothing but it was a front for where the money went. The money went to other companies to actually manufacture, some onshore and some offshore, to actually manufacture. And no quality was required. All that was necessary in the contract was that FDA approve it. And they fixed FDA by saying, FDA, you approve it. So FDA put on a show, but it never was a real test. It never was a real thing. And why? People say, well, why didn't they do it? They didn't do it because it wasn't in the contract. They were given no money for it. They only did it enough so that they could, quote, qualify it as an experimental use only drug. Only to that level. And even then, they lied about it. Now multiple boosters are required because of the quality. I can go through in detail all the stuff that was in it and how it affects your body, but we don't have time for that. This is a slide that I thought effective. In May of 21, 95%, June 70, July 50, August, no protection but reduces spread. Doesn't reduce the spread in September, but reduces severity. In October, doesn't reduce severity, but reduces hospitalizations. In November, doesn't reduce hospitalizations, but you aren't going to die. And then in December, you die, but you go to heaven.
Great slide.
Yeah.
And you've seen this, everybody's seen this slide before? This is the Cleveland study. And it shows that with 0 doses, this is a cumulative number of cases. And you see that with 0 doses, the number of cases is at this level, and then with greater than 3 doses is up here as cumulative, which says that the more shots you get, the more likely you are to have COVID.
With even one, that's right.
Oh, God.
So this shot I took in, I think it was July 18th of the DHEC website. Vaccines, COVID vaccines are safe, effective, and free. So were they effective?
No.
Are they telling us the truth?
No.
Do you know why?
Money.
Money, power, control.
I'll show you.
You got the way champion.
Now, I want to go through a science thing, but I'm going to go through it really quick. This really doesn't show up here. But what it says is, you know, the spike protein goes after ACE2, which is a molecule. The molecule has 2 forms. One form it's created inside cells. It comes to the surface of the cells and sits on the outside of the cells. And then there's another form that's free floating that floats in your bloodstream. And so what the virus is looking for, SARS-CoV-2 virus is looking for something that's attached. It's kind of a beacon. It uses a beacon. It's really interesting because the spike comes down and attaches electrostatically to the ACE2, and then it kind of releases. And believe it or not, there's no after it releases, there's actually nothing that holds it to the cell, holds the spike to the cell until the other guys, the other spiky guys, fan out and stick themselves into the cell to pull the virus in. So it's remarkable how fast that happens. It's a bang bang kind of thing. I'd have to show you the pictures. There's actually a good video on this. But what this is saying is ACE is throughout the body. ACE in particular is in your reproductive organs. It's all throughout your digestive system. It's in areas of your brain. ACE2 is everywhere. And that's why you have all these adverse effects happening all over your body. Because wherever the spike happens to land, and the fact is that there's free spike. That's another half-hour science exhibit, how the free spike happens to be free spike. And I'll just say that there's free spike going around in the blood. You want a blood transfusion? Oh, you want spikes? Well, get a blood transfusion. So the CDC says, this would be the CDC, which would be the US government, not every other country in the world, because every other country in the world is probably more honest than the CDC. At least they were, or we can get data that's better. CDC says about 7.7% get sick from seriously sick. So they have to go to the ER or something like that. And that 15% eventually, after more than a couple of days, get sick, and they have a medical disability. And the way they can track that is tracking medical disability and applications for that, because you don't get it directly. A major problem that we'll get to is there are no data that we can rely on in order to manage the problem. I'll say not just in the US, but worldwide, this is the same. The adverse effects are long-term. Again, another 15 minutes to talk about that. This was developed as DoD contracts. It was never called a vaccine. It was called a bioweapons countermeasure in their actual contracts. If you go and try and get insurance for an adverse effect, you go to the countermeasures webpage. It's called countermeasures webpage. It's not called the vaccine for COVID webpage. You wonder why? Well, the future's already planned for a combination, as flu shots, for cancer treatments, etc. The one thing that's come out from all this, if you put all the science together of all that's happening, what the COVID vaccine does, it accelerates aging. That is the fundamental bottom line. So you get the shots, you'll end up aging. You'll die earlier. You'll die of things that are age-related earlier. If you have a cancer or a propensity to cancer, you will have turbo cancer, more likely than not. I mean, these are all statistical. It's not absolutes, but they're statistical. Part of the problem is that all statistics is bad, by the way. Since I'm an AI, I can tell you right away that they use normal statistics and everything is Poisson. That might not mean anything to you, but that's a big difference. And so it's wrong. UK, the way they did it in the UK to try and figure out what was going on was they went to the disability system and looked at new payments from the disability system. Hematological issues where they successfully got disability payments up 522%, auditory up 121%, cardiovascular up 121%, dermatological 138. That's a big problem. This is getting bigger and bigger because this is one of those things that's coming out a little bit later than the other ones.
Yeah.
The dermatological things. Endocrine 156, gastrointestinal 145, genitourinary 143, immune 115. See, immune's kind of down there in a sense.
It's still doubled.
Wow, but it's all immune.
So, but the one that worries me the most is reproductive.
Yeah.
And that's not something they can say disability system. They can't say that.
Yeah.
But reproductive is what worries me the most.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a good one because it's very hard to get data that isn't controversial because there's other things that could have caused it. But this is one of the ones that you can see what's going on politically. This is reported deaths before they had a recall. So when you have a vaccine and there's a problem, then they stop selling the vaccine. They stop selling the vaccine.
Even if it's just a few people.
Yeah, so you can see that for the polio vaccine, they stopped the polio vaccine after 10 people had a problem. The worst case was Vioxx in 2004, where they stopped it with 6,600. But they haven't stopped it yet with COVID, and there's 35,600.
More than that.
Documented.
Well,
Right.
that's VAERS, so it is possibly 1 to 10% of the actual, right? Dwayne?
Yeah, again, data, we don't have data.
Yeah, on purpose.
Root cause, we don't have data. But that's what it is. The estimate is that there's 13 million people globally that have died from the vax or the consequences. Okay. Because of time, this is a slide that if you want to ask the question of what's going on in your body, this is a slide that tells you what's going on, how it all works. This is slide number 1, and this is slide number 2.
Will
Go
we have
back to
access,
last
I'm
year.
sorry.
Go back so we can take a picture.
I'll send you out the whole
Yes.
thing.
Okay, great, thank you.
Make sure we have your emails, we
Mike
can send
has
you the
it.
whole deck.
And if you want to join our Signal group, you can
Oh,
join
yeah.
our Signal group.
What's the name of it?
Well, it's your phone number and, you
Yeah,
just
yours
need
and what is
to let
yours?
us know, let Mike know,
Okay.
and it's your phone number. And then we will let you in so that you can follow all that's going on in real time.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide. About the mandates, again, we've got the masks, the shots, the lockdowns, the lockouts, the firings that have been going on across. The department, where are these coming? How does this get in? You know, the governor said that there are no mandates, there were no mandates. He ran on that. Liar, liar, pants on
That's
fire.
right.
I have the actual document where he mandated it. And it didn't last long, but he still mandated it, and he continued to mandate parts of it. And if he didn't mandate it, he strongly suggested it. And DX said they didn't mandate or require anything. Do you believe that?
No, not at all.
Well, they're telling the truth but not. Because what happens is that the companies and everything take whatever they say as a mandate.
Right.
So, and this is the truth of everything that's gone on. It's a kind of, they lied, but they didn't. They suggested it's politics. I think you ought to do this, says the guy that holds the money for the other guy.
Yes.
So that's what's really going on. There's been no scientific basis for any of the mandates. If they show you something that's a scientific basis, you go back and look at the authors and you find out that the authors are affiliated with whoever it was that said it. Or the people, if it was a refereed document, the people that refereed it were working for the pharmas so they've got a complete closed loop on the control.
A good example of that is if you're researching something on Google, like corn syrup, and you find a page that says, oh, it's no problem, you scroll down to the end, paid for by the Corn Growers Association.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
don't use Google.
the monetary, the thing about Google, since I know so much about Google, they couldn't monetize it for years and years, but they monetized it by selling the order in which
Yeah.
things appear.
Results.
That's created an algorithm that then they use to control who has access. And you certainly don't have access to go down to the 100,000th entry.
Right.
If it's there at all. So basically, we were talking about safeness there. There's the same slide, no safe. Here's the follow the money slide. DHEC funding. Federal COVID, this is 21. Federal COVID money to support DHEC, 38%. State support, 6%. 44% of all of the budget for funding for DHEC came from COVID. Now you ask yourself, why did they put the website the way they did? Because it was tied to the money.
Imagine the children in the foster system that were screwed by that.
Yeah,
No voice
It's
at all.
criminal. It's
No
criminal.
voice.
Yeah.
that's like the $13,000 per patient to get admitted. That's why case numbers, we need case numbers, that's all you heard about.
Well, I've got lots of data on shots too, how much they got per shot, doctors and practices got per shot. If they got a certain percentage with shots
Yep.
that came under the table. All this is, I've written 8 books. Wow. I haven't published any of them yet because things are coming out so rapidly, I can't get to a point where it'll settle down that I can say I can publish it. But it forms the basis for the kind of information I give. But but I can send out the books anytime you want to, or you can have access to it. The FOIA's revealed following money, $13 billion in funding went to influencers to promote the mRNA. So you wonder why all of the medical associations said get the shot? Well, they were given money, and then they were told that we'll take the money back if you don't provide positive words about the shot. That's in documents that were FOIA'd. Why should we be concerned now? Well, there's so much corruption in government, particularly in the deep state, that they've lost all their integrity. They don't work for the people. They work for each other to keep each other in power, to keep each other getting money. They're a complete fourth branch of government right now. $4 billion has been stolen or wasted according to Fortune.
Yeah.
Of
South
the
Carolina could lose $4 billion, the federal government could lose $400.
So, we did FOIAs. One of our people out on the East Coast did FOIAs on all the data, and they found that they couldn't give any validity, any of the data that they had on their website. That's what all this stuff means. And especially for the kids, and even for the vaccines that are required by the kids, there's no safety data on that either. When they do the safety test, they test it against the previous version instead of a saline solution. And so the safety stuff isn't as safe as the last one. They've never done a real saline test on any of that stuff. Nor have they done an effectiveness study. There's no data on it. And that's through a FOIA request. So it's not like I'm making this up. Disinformation, you can go through all that. We all know about all the kinds of disinformation, so I'll just pass right through that. This is an interesting slide because it shows how the funding went. There were huge public and private funding streams that were set up, military-led, that went through, what are they? It's the kind of company where it's a face company.
Shell company.
They went through shell companies to manage the contracts. Now, I guess I'm gonna have to go past all this. This is all the information where the money came from. And the net result of all this is it's unaccountable and unauditable because of the way they set it up.
Yeah, chaos.
So, and I've written about this extensively in my book so that you can have all the background. The near future, we expect this to continue again. CDC is doubling down. The WHO treaty. If you want me, ask a question about that, and then we can get it in when they're afterwards, so that I won't run out of the time I've run out of already.
I think the whole room's gonna buy your book, by the way, so.
Well, this is the stuff taken out of my book. Root cause analysis should have started by now. I don't think it's started yet. The guy that runs this thing is a dyed-in-the-wool believer in what he does. He still wears his Darth Vader mask to everything. If you've ever seen any of his wearing his Darth Vader mask.
Who are you talking about?
The head of it, the head.
I had a D. Summer, what's his last name?
He's still wearing a mask?
Yeah.
Yeah. He
Yes,
actually,
we have here in our state, and this guy is wearing a mask.
yeah.
He's
even
the
on the
head of
computer.
our health department. Yeah.
Even on the computer.
He's still wearing it. And it's black, big and black. He looks like Darth Vader.
In Greenville, or he's the
Yeah,
head of?
Columbia.
South Carolina.
And guess who
Edward
appointed?
Zimmer.
Zimmer, yeah.
Guess how he got his job?
Big mask.
Probably.
McMaster.
I think that's no mask on.
So essentially, he has a mental disorder. Yeah.
No, that's not true. He has an integrity problem.
Well,
Yes.
He has an
Yes.
integrity problem. It really is. Okay, so the process of doing root cause analysis is you do all the observations, which I've gone through. You do a root cause analysis, which says, well, these are probably the main root causes. Then you do a lessons learned, well, this is we've learned this because of the root causes, and then you say, so we're gonna do something about it. You know, that's a corrective action plan. So what I've got done in here is the corrective action plans that we've created. And I'm gonna just say, right there in the middle, money is causing all of it. The human ethics is causing a lot of it, evil, greed, pride, and especially power. Over here in the lack of desire for equality, you go down the development process, the existing science, it's incredible. It's incredible how they ignored all the science that was known before to do it, which shows you that they really had another thing in mind other than the science.
Yes.
Poor logistics and poor training. Those are very interesting in my book. There's also some other book that just came out that's good about that, to show you just how bad things were in the manufacturing area. And on semiconductor manufacturing, there's my wheelhouse. So semiconductor is 6 Sigma, they're only 4. So I can tell you a thing or two about quality management. Lack of accurate information, that is probably the #1 priority to getting back. This is where we can get around this problem of integrity by getting good information, and making it available to the public so the public can check what's going on and run their own analysis. Lessons learned, we cannot trust what the U.S. government says. The deep state, especially the 3-letter security agencies and HHS, are deeply involved in what we would consider illegal and immoral activities, and so on. The bottom line is that we can no longer go and assume that the federal government's going to protect us. You know, that's the keep it simple solution. Unfortunately, it's going to be at the state, but the state is corrupt. The people that are in the state, if you follow the money, you see that under the table, the pharmas and the hospital systems are paying for the legislatures. So I'll go through how that flows if you want to. That's not something I figured out, that's what I was told by legislators, how it works.
Somebody had popped a few screens if you didn't mean to.
No, I gotta go through these.
Oh, okay, all
I'm getting the,
right. Getting the
Yeah.
eagle eye.
The signals.
Getting eagle eye.
Talk, it's okay, go.
okay, so the top priority is to fix the database system. And that means that we have to create and this is something you guys won't like. We have to create a database system where we can feed from the state hospitals into a central place.
It's the data warehouses that hospitals are collecting that have those raw claims. And I'm one of the few people that had access to the raw claims. I was collecting it for the healthcare insurance.
We want to get that.
But the FOIA has to go against that data warehouse, those claims.
Yeah. But I've written all about this. I've done Rios.
Yeah.
I was Spartanburg Regional CIO, so I know how things work. And so I can make this so it's bulletproof. And we have people that are world experts that have agreed to join the team to help us to be the front end.
Yeah.
Because I'm nobody. But these guys are somebody. And to be the front end to make this work, it's completely out of the hands of DHEC. It's out of the hands of the state government. It's a pseudo-private kind of thing, commission that runs this thing, and that's what Rio's about, with a database, so that we can get ICD codes and really see. Now, at the front of this, we have to begin testing the actual vaccines that are coming in, because the vaccines that are coming in are so dirty, they're not even tracked. If you believe it, they're temperature sensitive, and they are not tracked. And that's what's causing a lot of these adverse things you see going in that are floating.
Even in a refrigerated truck as they're transported?
No, they can't even be in it. They have to be in a special, very expensive box, because they have to be kept
With an
very
indicator.
low temperature, and they can't deviate because it's a fat. And actually, it's not really, it's a real fat. It's not a real fat. It's a synthetic fat, and the synthetic fats are very fragile, except when they get in the body. then they combine with your own fats, and you can't get rid of it, because there's no way to lyse them, there's no way to cut them up and get rid of them. Okay, let's see. We're asking, so we're asking that, that DHEC tell us what they've done in the way of, root cause analysis. We're asking them to, check the pharmacy supply chains, and they need to be audited because we don't believe the quality is there in the supply chain, getting it to the place where the shot is, and we don't believe the shots themselves, the quality of shots is equal. So it's the process and the shots that need to be. And then you have to look at the data of the patients, and then you have to run autopsies on patients that have certain symptoms. That's the only way to get the data right.
What about the coding side of it? Because if they're coding the claim wrong, then of course we don't have the data.
Well, that's why we're going after the ICD codes.
Okay, all right, so to change those codes or to.
No, we're not gonna change the codes. That's the doctor's prerogative. We're gonna flag the codes.
Okay.
You'd have to see how the hospitals manipulated the physician workflows through the
Well, they're
EMR,
upcoding is
through
what
the
they're
EMR,
doing.
through the coding.
Yeah, they're upcoding to get the best.
To really weird.
You know, someone comes in with a car accident, died because of the car accident, and they make them a COVID death because
And I
they
had
happen to have COVID.
I've had one like that. Yeah. Okay, that they have to correct the website, they have to stop circulating, well, I call them mRNA technology because it isn't really mRNA, it isn't mRNA, it's a fabrication of the mRNA, it has pseudouridine in it, and a couple other modifications that don't make it really RNA. So that fooled me. We have to have an improved informed consent process. We have to have critical view of vaccines in the childhood vaccination process. And we have to restructure how DHEC works. The way DHEC works right now is you have all the stuff coming in from the feds. DHEC repackages it, sends it out to the public as regulations and disinformation. And they send the disinformation to the DHEC board, which no longer exists, and to our illustrious governor. The result is we have no integrity whatsoever in this whole process. So they're doing a reorganization. We suggest we create a Florida kind of Surgeon General that is so organized that the Surgeon General is a political person that we can stick with. That is, if he's done, if the health department's done anything wrong, the Surgeon General's going to be held responsible. And that they provide guidance, and there's a bunch of other things, whole bunch of other processes, 5 pages of processes that have to be changed. I can't go through those. They're all here, 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 here. Here's the kind of end thing. It's chiefly upon the lay citizens informed by science, but not its practitioner, that the country must depend on in determining the use to which science is put, in resolving the many public policy questions that scientific discovery is constantly forcing us. What I found is that there are a few good legislators that are willing to learn this stuff, and a whole bunch of them aren't. And so we're gonna have to fill the gap. Get them out.
Yes.
Fill the gap, get them out. Corrective act. Main thing about education, and there's a whole bunch of stuff we're doing in education. We've got in education. You've got to begin teaching the scientific method. I don't think any of the kids understand that. We've got to be teaching biology in a way that they show that the kids understand how this mechanism, all these mechanisms work. And by the way, it's not the kids, all ages. We have to create a program where we can re-educate people so that they can make the decisions for themselves. The parents are supposed to be responsible for their kids' health, and yet they have none of the information. The sheets were blank, and even if they had the sheets, they wouldn't know what to do with them. final thought on education. I've been involved in education since the 1960s, not counting my own education. I served on a school board in the 1980s for 10 years in Vermont. I have written articles on education. The changes we are attempting to make trace their origin back 2 generations to the 1960s. If we commit to change now, will it be a 2-generation journey? I think it probably will. I think it'll take 2 generations to turn this around. Unless people like us are willing to change priorities. And in some ways we have to go through the churches, because this is a church ethical issue. But in the end, I believe pessimistically that we will have to persevere and work our way through this. Teach our children have to teach their children, and maybe in that 2nd generation we'll have this thing turned around. The clear failure of congressional investigation oversight concerning these issues indirectly serves to validate the implementation patterns and policies, virtually guaranteeing that the creepy authoritarianism deployed in the name of public health will be repeated and expanded during future crisis responses. Now, we have 25 bills that are currently held up that deal with this in the legislature, just in the House. And there's a similar number in the Senate. They're all tied up. They deal with the majority of the corrective actions that I've talked about. So if we pass those, we'd be 80% of the way, at least at the legislative level, with getting things done.
Goes back to your comment about keep it simple. Look at how many bills is required just to mandate it.
Yeah.
Is that state or federal?
Well, they put the bills in,
It's
so
the
they can
state.
say, look, they put the bills in. Doesn't mean it's gonna get any motion, I mean, it might sit on the floor for ages.
Well, here's the answer to your question. Where are these bills?
Right. They're just in the system.
The number passed, 0.
Right.
They've been in the system for at least a year, sometimes 2. The number sitting in the House Judiciary Committee, 15. So guess where the target is? Now, the way this all works, it's been explained to me, is that this guy that's in the judiciary, almost all of them are lawyers.
Yeah, they're all lawyers.
Well, there's a couple that aren't. But, well, a couple out of, 18 or something like that, they have a pretty large committee. These guys, the money they get paid, the retainers, I'm told, come from pharma and the hospital system. So, and the guy that runs it is a lawyer. So you can guess what happens. He grabs all these things as they come in, puts them in the judiciary where they'll die.
Yeah, we'll look at those.
And so I've been asking the Greenville County to go after. I've got a couple resolutions that need to go through. One from the East Coast, one that we've developed from the East Coast, one from here, to push through and go specifically after certain people in places of power during the primaries. And primary them to lose. And when we primary them, we win. We have to put the perseverance in it to win. Because we have if we can just get a half a dozen people out of the House to hold these key conditions, then we'll probably get all these bills through. Because we have a supermajority on the Health Committee already. So if they get into the Health Committee, they'll pass. And then the Senate usually will follow.
Well, who's the one in the judiciary that's holding everything up? Who is that?
It's the head of the judiciary.
But who is it?
I don't know his name.
Weston Newton.
I can look it up.
His name is Weston Newton
I'm
from
sorry?
Beaufort County. Weston Newton.
Yes.
So he's in Beaufort County?
Is that the pharma lobbyist interfering with that in the judiciary?
There's a lot of lobbying going on. I'm told that it more is the under the table payments for retainers that controls it.
They probably get them out.
Okay. Final slide. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But without health, these rights are ephemeral. Okay, I'm got a PhD, I've got to use a big word. But they're not likely to happen. So the bottom line is what are our priorities? That's it. Is there anything, let me know if there's anything that needs to be changed for the presentation on Tuesday. Yeah.
I just have one question, one comment. The scariest thing that I've read in the last year reads, mRNA has been converted into an aerosol form, which means I could be breathing it right now if somebody thinks that I should be taking the vaccine. And the other one,
They're in the third phase of what they call their testing program to have a nasal mRNA.
and the second one was when when you get the shot and mRNA is in your body, it is a permanent change to your body. It is not something that is
No.
flushed out.
No,
Okay.
you'll see that in, perhaps, is there gonna be another part that,
I don't get into that.
well, these things, I don't know where it went, but, the various drugs that they propose as part of the FLCCC, that pretty much will get rid of the spike.
It'll detox you out.
Okay.
Detox.
Ivermectin and.
Yeah.
and
So there is a way to get
To
rid
get
of
it
that.
out of your body if you've had it.
Yes.
That's what they claim.
Yeah.
Now, there's one of them that they're claiming that biologically shouldn't happen, that they claim will work, that biologically shouldn't happen. And so I don't believe that one yet works, but all,
I think my biggest, well, there's a lot of problems with this, but what about, young women that are just approaching, childbearing years, and they've had the shot? They've already been infected. I mean, so we're looking at a generation of kids
it's
that
already showing.
might have a finger out of their neck or
No,
something.
no,
What-
no,
what's-
no. They won't have a kid.
What's that?
They won't have a kid.
No, yeah, reproductive.
It'll be barren.
Either
And
on
so
the male
what's
side or the
level?
female side. The male side is.
Male side is.
We might have a generation of unvaxxed if that.
No,
if
you're
that
seeing that,
works.
you're seeing 18% reduction. in
Because
birth
my
rates.
girls will not consider, they don't care how good the boy is, won't even start dating him if they're vaxxed.
Right. Good job.
Yes. Go ahead.
I have a question about the test, because I'm concerned about the COVID test being
The PCR?
contaminated.
Yes. They keep- they-
Well,
still
are
a
they contaminated? And what is the PCR test testing for?
And are they still amplifying it?
They claim they're not, but I wouldn't test the PCR. I was tested twice positive with the PCR test. And then my antibodies tested that I didn't have any. But let me tell you how that actually works.
If you turn the volume up loud enough, the
Well, they
noise
said
shows up as the,
the
what
Yeah,
you're looking
that's,
for.
that's right. But I think really, since I'm old enough, I've probably been exposed to SARS-1. And your nose system is a whole nother system of protection. And it can be in your nose and not go down and go through the entire cycle, and you won't even know it. If you've already got the antibodies in the mucus part of your head. So it won't get down to the other, it's a different system that works there. So
Tony,
you
can
gotta
you-
kind of separate them, yeah.
Can you explain why, they don't swab the mouth, and why when they swab the nose,
Swab
they drive it way up?
Why
Testing.
don't they just use the phlegm from here instead of going all the way?
Why don't you just swab your mouth instead of jamming something up your nostrils?
I don't,
It sure looks like they put it there a long way.
my impression is that the mouth wouldn't have much spike in it because of the
Because there's a
difference
hole.
in acidity and
And you mostly
But why
breathe
can't
through your
they
nose.
swab just down here?
why do they
They
have
have to go way back.
So that they can get to
Why?
here.
Where the mucus is instead of the hairs.
But they say.
It goes to the blood-brain barrier.
Just don't get
tested in your mouth or from here, so I'm just trying to understand why they can't.
The way that Kerry Mullis explained it before he suddenly died
Oh.
was that it wasn't intended to be used for this purposes, it was used to be done in laboratory
PCR test.
environments.
Right.
And and it's, what you're talking about is an amplifying and cycling. They just keep running the blood over until they pick up a remnant of a coronavirus, which everybody has. And so that's how they get the false positive so easily, and that's why it's really not very good. But the bottom line is, it's a coronavirus, so what does it matter if you have it or don't have it? You're not gonna treat it any differently.
Yeah.
Which is.
Is there anything you can offer people that have, I didn't get vaxxed, but the people that were forced into it?
Yeah, I thought we were gonna have a presentation.
We are.
What, okay.
We are.
It was forced.
We are.
Okay,
We're just
all right.
asking Dwayne some questions now.
Okay.
Any questions on what he presented, and then we're getting to the
Thank
second
you.
one.
What about shedding from people who have been
What
vaccinated?
about what?
Shedding from people who have been vaccinated already.
That's true.
Is there a shedding?
Oh, yes.
How
For
far
how
does it
long?
shed?
Even from your skin.
How long does it last? From the person who's been
6
vaccinated?
months,
6 months.
anyway.
So anybody's been vaccinated, you have to stay away from them basically for 6 months, you're saying?
No,
Can't do that.
you'll, if you've had the, it's not dense enough to cause problems. If you've had COVID, which most everybody has, then no problem. I mean, it's like the mask issue.
Okay.
Don't get worried about that. I'm not a doctor though, so don't.
I was just a scientist.
Yeah, you don't wanna turn this into the AIDS field, or you want the AIDS back in the AIDS.
Yeah, this is interesting. This is an interesting thing that I tried to make clear on our Signal website. We have had this kind of issue every decade
Yeah.
since I've been knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
That's true.
This is
So it's just that now there's a PSYOPs campaign that's going on, and it's being controlled by a different group of people. We shouldn't be panicking over it, but we should be
You already did, so.
and we should be informing others, and we should get the things changed, because there's a lot that needs to be changed.
And maybe thank Elon Musk for ripping apart Twitter.
If he does.
Well, he kinda already did, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, okay. Fine.
Any other questions for Dwayne right now?
Sorry, so how long did this take, like 40 minutes?
Over an hour.
It was an hour and
About an hour, wasn't it?
No, I'm gonna start at 5 after, it's an hour.
Good.
That's good.
I'll have to pull out a little bit.
Yeah.
It was recorded, so you can go back and watch yourself.
Okay, my name is Mike Bowden, for those of you who don't know me. Within the GOP itself, I'm the third vice chair, so I'm accountable to helping out with reorg and membership. And we're in the process of doing that through these zones that we talked about. My background is in consumer products. I've worked in both OTC and beauty and consumption products, and so I've sold masks. I've sold a lot of, I still sell a lot of medicines and that sort of thing. So, my background, let's be clear, I'm not a doctor, although doctors don't know a lot about this stuff either. What they get from pharmaceutical salesmen. But I do look at psychology a lot in terms of what happened here, because we all know that we kind of got snowed. So I want to kind of talk about that and how they do it, and how we can use our own discernment to question and challenge and everything. And I would say most of the people in here already have that. But maybe going through this will help you in your mind when you're dealing with people around you, because we want to help everybody. We want to help them from the standpoint of understanding the next one that's right on the horizon, and it's going to be a lot scarier than the one we had in 2020. And so the more people that we can nudge and wake up into at least suggesting that they do research up front, that they don't react, that they pause and think, do a little research, we might be able to save a lot of lives. So this is more of the psychology part of it. I want to start with this because it might help a little bit about discernment. So in the year 2015, when the whole Trump thing was going on, I wrote a poem. It's called Wake Up. So I'm gonna read it real quick, and then we'll look forward and say, okay, you can trust your gut, because a lot of things do come true. It's time to wake up, my friends, take a look at the world through an honest lens. It's said that power can be corruptive, and absolute power totally destructive. Some people float in the clouds of innocence, others are skeptical and cynical. It's sad the ones with so much want for more, a hapless journey through a soulless door. Have we gotten so hubris that we worship sinners, prop them up as kings and winners? Abandoning God will lead us astray, yet so many embrace this fool's play. Get your head out of the sand, reject this folly and make a stand. This land is your land. God in humility we should demand. Don't take your freedom for granted. Blood was spilled so it could be planted. Rise up, my friends of color and faith, sisters and brothers, I'm telling you straight. We're being played against each other. Wake up and embrace my sisters and brothers. Wake up, we're one human race. Wake up, it's ours to claim. Wake up, or it's us to blame. So, you know, when I look forward now, a lot of that has been true, right? And I'm not an exceptionally intelligent person or a prognosticator, but I did listen to my gut when I wrote this because I saw these things happen. All the things that you've seen on TV that people just took as just organic, but they weren't, right? So that's where we want to get our critical thinking on, that Dwayne was talking about earlier, is we got to look at everything with a very sharp eye, because everything they're doing is for a reason. And they've been guiding us using the tell a vision for a very, very long time. And I'm not joking about that, to be honest with you. So here's one of the things I looked at, and it's really kind of funny, but when you look at people that have a high propensity for sociopathic nature, it's almost 4% of the world population. So a lot of people lie. And lie without any concern, without any conscience, or any concern of who they hurt. So I'm kind of a numbers guy, and
4%, that's two of us.
you take 3.7% of 7.5 million people, there are 277 million sociopaths walking the earth. So when people tell you there's no way that they can collude and come together to do the things that they're doing, baloney, there's plenty of them, more than willing to do that. I would say about 90% of them in this country are living in Washington, D.C. and Columbia. So it's just important to follow the math, because it tells you that, yes, it is very feasible that these things happen. So just as you look at little snapshots, so this is what's new, right? Biden says new COVID shots that work. How does he know they work?
Yeah, it's admitting.
Because he said so.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe on the way for all Americans. I signed off in this morning proposal. Now, when he signs off, it also means more billions of dollars going to Big Pharma. And then finding its way back into our state agencies like DHEC. And then that floats its way down to get compliance from all the hospitals, all the school districts, et cetera, et cetera. In a staff briefing today, CDC confirmed that available data and science do not support annual COVID vaccines. This contradicts the director's recent statement that annual boosters will be likely recommended this fall. So this is classic gaslighting. Confuse you. Tell you this, then tell you this, and come back and back. If you start watching the patterns, you'll see how slick they are at this. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Event 201, are you all familiar with that one? I mean, it happened in September of 2019, right before the pandemic actually started. And Gavi and the Gates Foundation and the WHO and Johns Hopkins Center, all of these people were all together with a lot of our politicians, and at this point they were global politicians too. So we're already formulating how this was going to work and execute. They were actually doing, this was like, the rehearsal. Here's another interesting thing that Dwayne didn't hit on, but the flu disappeared, guys, for 2 years.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
So when you look at anything else, so let's go for real. I'm not an expert. I don't know. I will tell you this: I've done a lot of research, and I cannot find anything that can validate that anyone has actually isolated the virus.
That's right.
No.
Okay? So there's millions of people that died of it. There should be plenty of blood samples. I can tell you that one of the labs in California did 2,000 samples and found them all to be influenza A and influenza B. So he thought maybe his testing was off. He sent it to Stanford and Columbia, and they came with the same results. So I'm not saying it didn't happen. I think it actually did, but I think it wasn't anywhere near as infective as they thought it would be, or as deadly as they hoped it would be.
I've always thought COVID was the biggest psyop.
But because it wasn't killing a lot of people, you saw the nursing home issues come up, right? People dying, people that were sick being put in hospitals and infecting people that are very high risk just naturally. You saw what they did, and you were talking about this earlier, the coding as it relates to people that died in motorcycle accidents, died of cancer, all kinds of things being coded as COVID deaths, right? And then eventually the CDC did have to come back and say only about 5% of COVID deaths were actually of COVID. But by that time, people were already in full panic mode, and they were all getting the shots. And Fauci has already prognosticated that this is going to happen again, and so has Tedros. In May of 2023, Tedros said the next pandemic will be even deadlier than COVID. The threat of another variant emerging that causes new surges of disease and death. Now, theory is that because the shots are staying in people's systems, and because as they take more boosters, their immune system breaks down, when people get hit with the normal flu this fall, a lot more people are going to die because their immune systems are not going to be able to fight it off. That is going to create a lot of fear. We have to get people to not be afraid. If they've had a shot, they should be afraid. You're going to have Angie and Linda sharing how you can detox off this stuff and how you can protect yourself if you have had a shot, to be able to withstand this and be able to endure it. But for those that haven't, they could easily be sucked in, because this time it's going to be a lot more theater. And it's going to be a lot more real too, because the disease was the shot. This is what's on theirs, but if you take this times 10, it's probably a more realistic number, because it's very hard for a nurse or a doctor to be able to actually go into theirs and load all this in and make it very difficult. Again, you can't keep it simple. They've made it so that nothing that you do. We were just talking about how we can go out there and get candidates to run for office, and we find out there's hundreds and hundreds of open, public positions. And how do you get your arms around all that? It's just, they've made this thing so complex that it's hard to break down.
Also, I do believe physicians were discouraged from doing it. For one,
They were.
for money, to keep their jobs.
Yes.
Recently, we got a very brave soldier who is a whistleblower on the myocarditis spike in the military, and it's especially hit hard in the Air Force and all the pilots in both Army, Navy, and Marine. They're really hurting for pilots right now because of this. That's also why I think you see a lot of the delays and a lot less effective commercial airline flights, because there's a lot of pilots that have been grounded.
Yes, I work for them, so it's true.
Yes, so sad.
And with the explosion of myocarditis in young healthy adults, Pfizer ended up adding, this is what they do. We'll get into this a little bit more, but they create the problem, and they already have the solution coming on the next level, so it's another drug they can sell you. It's a pattern, by the way. Not going to get too much into vaccines in general. At the end, I'll show you a book that Robert Kennedy Jr. wrote that is probably good reading for you to understand better how vaccines actually work. But sort of like, there's a website called Suddenly Died. If you just Google that, you'll get about 15 search lines where it says fact check, this is false, this is false, this is false, this is false. It's getting harder and harder to get to the truth now when you search it, because they're loading every page up with stuff that talks against what that truth is. But the correlation between the shots and the timing of these increased amount of deaths is the fact that they don't even want to talk about it or indulge in figuring out if there is a correlation. Again, it's discernment. Okay, why? Why wouldn't they want to know? Same thing with this. I mean, you look at autism. We all remember Rain Man. Well, right after Rain Man hit, that's when it just sort of exploded. And it went from 1 in 10,000 to now 1 in 36 kids suffer from autism. And there are other neurological diseases that have also been impacted by this, including Alzheimer's, that have come when vaccines increase. But remember that we also went from, I think, about 5 or 6 shots for kids in their scheduling to like 60. And multiples at one time, which have never been tested. So, something Peter McCullough wrote, patients commonly ask me why their own doctors push COVID-19 vaccination so hard, still to this day with alarming safety statistics. Loss of efficacy and now complete lack of human trial data with the bivalent boosters. The answer may come by following a money trail from HHS and CDC called COVID-19 Community Court. That early in 2021 made undisclosed individual payments to hundreds of organizations to promote mass vaccination. This all goes back to what Dwayne was talking about before, the money that the doctors get, but also those medical systems, okay? Gotta move fast here. So why are we so confused? It's gaslighting and censorship. Why didn't health professionals and scientists speak out? They tried. They were shut down. Why did media push fear and solutions so hard? Who's the largest advertiser? I mean, geez, today if you look, it's all you can see, and they run for a minute. How did they know this was going to happen? The Hegelian dialectic, and that is they create the problem, then they offer the solution. And it is something that's been going on in our world in every different category of life without us knowing, including myself. Just, you don't pay attention, you don't see them creating it, and then coming up with the solution. All the wars use the same methodology. So now where are we at? Oh, effective immediately, masking the approved hospital, provided ear loops is required at all times. They're really going after our soldiers, our veterans too, because they're also the guys that would be our militia. Mass study published by NIH suggests N95 are dangerous. I think all masks are dangerous because they trap in the bacteria that you have, but they don't keep out the viruses. And so, and when you wear them for a longer and longer period of time, you're getting less and less oxygen, and you're weakening your immune system. So when they tell you to wear it 8 hours, 10 hours a day, that's insane. And our mayor was talking about that with an N95. That's the worst mask you want to wear for long periods of time. Masks, especially surgical masks, were intended for one purpose, and that is to protect the patient who's open on the table from the bacteria from the people that are working on it. And CDC cloth masks that are used to slow the spread of COVID offer little protection against wildfire smoke. Well, smoke particles are bigger than virus particles, so they're gaslighting you. They're telling you the truth and they're telling you a lie. And they tell you the truth and they tell you a lie. WHO now admits that asymptomatic transmission of COVID-19 is very rare. The claim of asymptomatic transmission was a major justification for the social distancing, lockdowns, and masks. Everything about the COVID-19 hysteria has been a lie. So remember this when they try to do it again. Do not comply. I didn't, and I wasn't welcome anywhere. Oops. Sorry, there we go. Representative Clay Higgins, one of the patriots. Do not comply, reject mask mandates. Refuse lockdowns. Stand your ground. Preserve your freedom. Our nation is threatened from within, and we're not complying with oppressive lockdowns ever again. We need to get to our sheriffs and our DAs. Currently, I think we need to challenge our current county sheriff to stand with this and put him on record, as we did the mayor of Simpsonville. Why do I keep The new COVID variant is now gaining ground in the United States. You've probably been hearing about it in the news. And we've certainly been seeing it in our patients in recent weeks. First of all, do not panic. EG.5, also known as the Eris variant, and certainly seems to be highly contagious, but from what we're seeing, less virulent. In other words, it's a lot like Omicron variants. So you're gonna be fine. Not gonna die. And this is Joe Biden. So now what? Well, we cannot trust the science because it's all BS. We cannot trust the healthcare agencies or the system itself because they took the money. That's what they did. We cannot trust the media. We all know that, right? And we cannot trust every medical practitioner. There's a lot of good ones out there that are speaking out here in South Carolina. You know, my doctor, Dr. Kimberlin and Dr. Kendall are fantastic through the whole thing. You know, they took care of their patients first. So Dr. Hilty out in Charleston, she's going to be at that hearing on Tuesday, and she's fighting real hard, and she's putting her practice at risk. So now what we do is we do our own research. Everybody dig in, don't take anything for granted. We control our fear and emotion before we react. Now how God says be quick to listen, slow to speak. I think it's the same sort of thing. Just take a breath and then dig in before you react. We improve our health through lifestyle changes. So, you know, we're exercising, we're outside, we're breathing air, we're taking the supplements that we know that work, which they're going to go through all those protocols. And there's prophylactics out there like ivermectin and ACQ that you can take once a week that will really protect you. And then we do not comply with unconstitutional mandates and ordinances. This is probably the most important thing because we're all about freedom. God gave us free will for a reason, and they're trying to scare us into submission. So last thing is, this is the book. You can get it on Amazon. My wife got it for me. Vaxxed, Unvaxxed, Let the Science Speak. And it talks a great deal about this. We do need to be more informed about this. We have been, as a society, very trusting of those that we put in charge. And they have proven not to be trustworthy, and shame on us. But everyone here is my generation. We're the tip of the sword. We have to be, because this all happened on our watch. And we have the most time and treasure. We've got to teach our children and our grandchildren that they can never not be involved in their civic duty, that they can never not ask questions and challenge what is being told of them, whether it's climate change, you know, whether it's the economy, whether it's the border, whether it's your medical protections. You've got to do your own work, they got to do their own work, and we got to hold these legislators accountable. 25 bills sitting there. You know, what is that? Let's, you know, they know that these bills make sense. So that's how I'll close. And I thank you for your time.
Real quick, is there a sign-up sheet that we all be on? The thing about the bills is that if we have friends, you know, we're out, hopefully we all have friends. I've got less than probably most people. But long story short, we need to get in touch with our legislators.
Right.
And, you know, and contact our legislators. Is there a sign-up sheet back there for that, or?
What's the question?
The question is about is there a sign-up sheet for them to be able to help us organize people to be able to reach out to the legislators that are not passing these bills to create that pressure?
Okay, well, so I'll probably go over, we have a signal group for medical freedom enthusiasts, if you're not on that. Dwayne's gonna send out his awesome presentation. When you go to contact your legislators, you go to scstatehouse.gov to know who your legislators are. You should know them anyway if you're involved with the GCRP, because, like, you know, I call mine, I have them on text, I call them, I text them, so we, you know, and with that information, with those bills that are available, you can see who is the subcommittees and stuff like that.
You just did the bill number and you say you want.
That was my shameless plug for everyone to get involved.
Yes, very good. But for those that don't know, when you go into the scgop.org, you'll get all the district, all your representatives, and you can take a screenshot of it, and then you got it on your phone. You always have.
And on our, SCGOP. mySCGOP.com, there's a little link, and you just press on, and it says, it says find your legislators. And then it brings you to the website for South Carolina, very simple.
Yeah, scstatehouse.gov also will give you videos, and you'll see every bill, it'll give
And
you
you can
every
read all the
email.
bills, right, and that's where the mySCGOP.
Last point I want to make is, because we didn't talk about this, is there's a sheet back there that you can fill out regarding yourself or anybody that you know that has been impacted by the shots. It could be that they lost their job, or still work their job, it could be that they have an adverse effect. Whatever it is, we really want to get those filled out and have them in the hearing on the 12th.
Yeah, so we started it, so here, you don't have to write a name or anything like that, you're just writing what happened. It could be a friend, a family member, whatever. I'm gonna start here, just push it around, and you have people just list it, and there's next page, next page, next page. If you have 3, 4, 5 people that you know got injured, died, you can just write them all in there, because we're taking them to Columbia.
So,
Dory, did you have a question for Mike? You raised your hand. Doris? You had a question for Mike? You raised your hand, but that.
No, I was just gonna mention that book already made it to number 11 on the New York Times bestseller list. That doesn't mean you'll find it in Barnes and Noble, but you can get it from Children's Health Defense.
November 3rd, that fax, John F. K. Jr.'s bus that's like taking people that have had adverse effects from the shots.
Oh.
It's gonna be in Savannah on November 3rd.
Wow.
And people that have had adverse effects from that can go there, because he's taking that, all their information
Oh, fantastic.
to Washington.
November
Well, that thing, you need to have a separate one per person for those sheets, because each one is kind of like a witness statement.
Oh, we were doing it as a petition. They were just
No,
writing each
no, it's a
person.
witness statement.
Oh, no. I thought that was a list. Hold on. Who's got the report? Okay. So put your information on a separate
Piece of
page.
paper. And then sign your name at the bottom.
There was a list from here. Okay.
I have a question while this is hanging out up there, and I might need you, Dwayne. The ivermectin was just mentioned. My understanding is that ivermectin is now, they pulled it off, discredited the guy that developed it and all about it. But now that when they're creating ivermectin now, that it's got other stuff in it, it's not as effective, and it's got their ideas of what you should be taking.
Oh.
Is that true?
I don't know, you work with, do you have a doctor you can get ivermectin from?
I do, but why would I want a new version of it?
Just get
It's
ivermectin.
very expensive now. It didn't used to be.
Well, it's 20-ish dollars for 20 pills.
Okay, I'm paying $1 a pill from alldaychemist.com is where I get mine from, and get it for like 2
Yeah,
years.
you can get
Say
it
that
directly
again,
from
Patty.
India.
Okay, wait.
Yes.
Dwayne, what do you have? What's your contact for $20 for 20 pills?
It's a,
you got it on Signal.
yeah, it's on, I put it on Signal, what
Okay.
it was. It's that card you can get, and then you get discounts on your pharmacy.
Oh, RX, good. Good RX stuff.
Good, all right.
And it's remarkable how the difference between the different locations. The cheapest price was, Fresh Market.
But do you need a prescription?
Yeah, you need a prescription.
Okay, so Fresh Market, Good RX.
You can get your
Okay.
prescription from an online doctor.
Okay, Angie will tell what she uses, and we have All Day Chemist. Is someone saying you can't get it from that now? Okay.
Oh, you're kidding.
Okay, so there's all options. You have options.
Thank you.
There's lots of options. I order from Ukraine, so, you know.
Yeah, okay.
I
That's about mine from India.
India.
Okay, wonderful.
Wonderful, you know, information.
Very good.
Okay.
Very well.
So my name is Angie Fisher, and I am here to tell you about personal testimony. I actually have a few, but I'm only going to tell one today. How my family kind of prepared ourselves for COVID and what happened when my husband got sick and what we learned after the fact. And so I want to give you some nuggets of information on how you can be prepared too. First and foremost, I want to say I'm not a medical practitioner. I do not want you to take this as any medical advice. I have to give you that disclaimer because we can get in a lot of trouble doing this. So if you have any questions, we have to say seek your medical practitioner. That can be natural medical practitioner. It doesn't have to be a Western medicine MD, but seek any kind of medical advice. So who am I and why am I here today to talk to you? And what gives me some kind of credibility about what I'm talking about? First of all, I am a graduate of Presbyterian College. I have an elementary education degree. I taught middle school language arts and history. And then when I got tired of doing that, I went into the medical field. So when my son was young, he had chronic ear infections, and I worked for family practice, and he continued to stay sick all the time. And we just weren't getting anywhere, passed around from doctor to doctor to doctor. I witnessed a lot of what I call is sick care, not true health care in a doctor's office. So I saw alternative treatment when the doctors told me that my son was going to have surgery. I was like, this just doesn't sit well with me. And so I went with my mom gut. We had a nutritional consultant in town, and I was advised to go see him. I took my son, who was a year old, to see him, and we did some muscle testing. We changed his diet. We took him off of whole milk after I had breastfed him for a while, and I saw a lot of changes in him within a week. So I knew something was different. And through that experience, I was later hired by this practitioner's office, and I worked there for many years. So I learned a lot. I was able to see true health care. I was able to see how parasite cleansing, I was able to see how nutritional supplements, I was able to see how diet changes really did impact people's health. And those were things that doctors weren't talking about. They didn't know, they didn't learn, because they don't get the training in those things. So after that, I got involved in a lot of, well, I say a lot, a few network marketing businesses that sold health products because I was using them myself because I had some health issues. And I began to coach other people and educate other people about different products and different things. But that afforded me the ability to go get trained by world-renowned scientists, doctors, all kinds of health practitioners that I was able to learn from. And so I'm an avid researcher. I love health. I'm a nerd when it comes to that. So that's my little hobby on the side when I leave work. I'm constantly reading and learning. So we were kind of prepared, but there are threats that can lead to a hospital stay. And some of those threats are, at first I put number one being a man, but I decided I needed to change that because, you know, there are some women that are hard-headed too, but just being stubborn about things. Number two is not paying attention to your body. Your body does give you signs, and if you're not listening to your body, then you can miss what it's telling you. And number three is pushing your body when you need to rest. My husband, that was the culprit for him right there. He won't stop. and so he won't rest. Number 4 is not being prepared, and number 5 is the fear factor, allowing people to scare you, and that can be your doctor. So how do you prepare to not go to the hospital? Or how we prepare to not go to the hospital? We had this COVID supplement protocol. We had C, D, zinc, quercetin, NAC, and I always use colostrum. We also use America's Frontline Doctors for our televisit to get all the things. Ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, zinc, Medrol pack, Z-Pack, albuterol inhaler. They prescribed everything. So we thought, we're good. I got the prescriptions filled. So I had them on hand.
Andy, where did you get them filled? Because sometimes.
Well, that's the other thing. That's the other takeaway that we learned too, is that you have to know the pharmacies that will fill these prescriptions, because some people are being denied. I think even Dr. Jackson said that he's being denied getting ivermectin filled at his local pharmacy. So I have a friend that owns Clinton Discount Pharmacy. I'm from Clinton, and he actually delivers to Simpsonville because he lives in Simpsonville. And so since he's local and he's just a mom and pop shop, that's where I do my business. And so when I was feeling kind of under the weather pre-COVID, I went and had a vitamin infusion done at New Healthcare Concepts in Gaffney, because somebody had told me about it, and I didn't really know anything other places to go, and I knew it was walk-in, and so we took a day, went up there. We got more prescriptions filled because she would fill prescriptions, so we just had more on hand if we needed it. And my husband and I had a conversation about what if we go to the hospital? Or what if we have to? Or what if we need to? Or what if we're told to? So we made a pact that there would be no what if for us, that we weren't going. Because Presley had died. We had other friends that had died in my neighborhood. So I didn't want to lose my husband. COVID has a 99% survival rate. That does not scare me at all. I have a less percentage of a survival rate driving to work every single day on 385, you know? But if you go to the ICU and you're put on remdesivir, your survival rate is less than 20%, and that scares me. So what happened? As prepared as we were, what happened? We didn't act quickly when Harry started getting sick. Harry's never sick. But he had slight symptoms, typical, you know, no big deal. He kept working, like most guys do, hard-headed. Kept pushing himself, kept going to the gym. He kept going to the gym after work. He just kept going, because that's Harry. He said he really didn't feel bad. So, you know, no big deal. But I noticed he started gradually declining. He didn't get up to go exercise. He was really exhausted when he came home from work. A friend bought us a nebulizer. This little thing right here. It ended up being a godsend for us. She bought us that, and she bought us some food grade peroxide. And we started nebulizing that for him, so he could breathe it in. And I had colloidal silver, and he was taking colloidal silver. So he began to decline a little bit more and more. It just happened so fast, y'all. It happened so fast. And at the time, I had 2 visitors in my house, and one of those was sick too, and I was working full time. So one of the visitors was well enough that he was able to kind of man the fort at home, so that I could work and kind of kept me informed. But as he declined, the friend who bought the nebulizer also recommended Hydrate Health. Rebecca Yergin here in town in Greenville, she operates this and she comes to your house to give you IV vitamin infusions. So we opted for that for Harry.
What's the company?
Hydrate Health,
What is AFLD?
American Frontline Doctors. So she came in, she gave him an IV infusion. She called me to tell me his oxygen level was 88, which is not terrible. But he was in bed. She checked in 2 days later, and I told him he wasn't better, so she said, I'm gonna talk to my doctor, who was Dr. Tran, I think at the time. I don't know if she still works under him or not. But he said, he made some recommendations, and he said, go to your doctor. Well, my husband and one of the friends that was staying at our house decided that they were gonna go see my doctor, who I worked for, who was my doctor for almost 25 years. And she even spoke down in Columbia at the subcommittee hearing about medical freedom. But when he got there, she wouldn't let him come in the office because he had a test for COVID first. Because there's a payout from the government for testing. And we don't play that game either in my family. So they knew me when I called the doctor's office really well. I wasn't some Joe Blow. I called, said, Harry's sick. I think he has pneumonia. This is what's going on. So when he got there, they refused to let him in the facility because he wouldn't test. And he said, I'm sorry, but I'm not staying and I'm not testing.
If you had tested and tested positive, would they let him in?
Of course. So
You
why
see again the gaslighting,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
Bizarre.
So even though she was a medical freedom doctor, wow, was she?
No.
Not for us.
I went to her as well and was in the car. They came out to give me a test. She walked out. I said, no. You talk about getting darts.
Angry.
She was livid.
They were angry.
And I had gone to her for years.
Yep.
And I pulled out,
Shame.
That doctor.
yeah, same doctor.
Yeah, we fired our doctor too.
When,
Yeah, she went to Columbia.
she didn't require him to be tested. I just told her that because we had taken a home test, and she accepted that, so it wasn't an issue. She didn't even ask. And so when he was positive, she treated him breathing treatments and then administered them. And and she did the chest x-ray, and the next day when we came back, then he had pneumonia and she wouldn't let him.
But the thing is,
She wouldn't let him in.
what did it matter?
Right.
What did it matter?
Right.
Money.
Money.
Money. So, guess what we did?
Fired.
We fired her. You can fire your doctor.
Yes.
You can. And so we did. I've not talked to her since the day he left her office. And so, my husband, as sick as he was, drove all the way to that clinic in Gaffney to get medicine from the walk-in clinic. Jeannie is awesome. If you have anybody in Gaffney, send them her way. She is tremendous.
What is it? Who is it?
New Health Concepts in Gaffney. And they are walk-in, and she works closely with Dr. Jackson. I think they're across the street from each other. She's a nurse practitioner. So a friend that we knew at the time had a rife light beam therapy machine. I don't know if y'all know anything about that, but it's an energy frequency healing device. We're a little out there sometimes, so we like to explore in alternative health. So he went for treatment, and the second day, we knew something was wrong. She could tell his color was different. He could barely walk up her steps. He was just declining so quickly. So we had this group text going with Mike and some other people I didn't even know, and there were some strangers that recommended Kendall and Kimberly's office that he had helped somebody in the middle of the night, and yada yada, so I was willing to do anything. And the people's house we were at, they also had a doctor kind of on speed dial, and they called their doctor too. But anyway, so I called, and I was very emotional, you know, and in that moment of kind of getting scared. And Dr. Kimmerlin, I think is who I talked to. Harry wasn't a patient because we had fired our doctor. You know, we didn't have a doctor. And he said, you'll need to take him to the hospital. I said, that's not an option for us. So, how was I going to keep him alive until we could get there the next day? Because he said, you can call, we'll see him tomorrow. So I was like, how do I keep him alive tonight? So, God intervenes every time, right? A call came in from a friend, that group we were in, that text group. He said that he knew somebody that had an oxygen concentrator, which is this device right here. He said, I don't know if she's free or not. I'm going to try to call her. He called me. He said, I can't get her. And I was like, okay. So I got to figure this out. Well, it wasn't too long later, she called me. And she was in Easley, and she said, meet me at Cracker Barrel at Easley at 10 o'clock at night. And I did. My husband was in the car. He said, all I was doing was laying there looking around thinking, is this how it's going to end? At the Cracker Barrel. But I was just grateful that he was going to have means to breathe that night. And I think for the first time we were able to sleep in some peace after several, I don't know, maybe a week or so. So the next morning he went to Dr. Kimmerlin's office. They didn't ask us to test. They said, do you want one? We said no. They didn't ask us to mask. They didn't act like we had a plague. They didn't act fearful. It was kind of nice to be in that kind of environment. He completed the checklist that Rebecca Yergin's doctor gave us, which was a chest x-ray, a stronger antibiotic, albuterol, budesonide for the nebulizer, which are these little rescules that go into the nebulizer and you breathe in this medicine. Guaifenesin and codeine cough syrup, which saved our lives because the cough was incessant. Harry's diagnosis was double COVID pneumonia, and I put COVID in parentheses because I'm not sure that I really believe COVID. But double COVID pneumonia. His healing took almost a month, maybe longer. He dropped 28 pounds in 28 days, and he's not a big guy. So that was a lot. Some takeaways and tips. Be prepared in advance, because I just got lucky. I got lucky that I had people that came into my life with things that we needed. So if I found an online pharmacy to stay stocked up on ivermectin, albuterol, budesonide, and antibiotics recommended by Dr. Jackson, is reliablerxpharmacy.com. It is from a different country, so you don't need a prescription. Keep a stockpile of your supplements needed to keep your immune system strong, and take them daily, especially during the sick season. Sometimes I get a little careless and lazy during the summer, but not during the fall and the winter. And make sure that you're getting good quality supplements. I don't buy supplements from Walmart. No. I don't buy supplements from CVS or anywhere like that because they have fillers in them and they don't do you any good. So even though you think you're only paying $10, you're flushing that $10 down the toilet because you're gonna pee it out. It's just not good. Know which doctor you will go to. Have a plan. Know which pharmacy you're going to be able to use to get your prescriptions filled, and do not let your insurance dictate your care. Because your doctor is going to only treat you the way he can get paid for by insurance. The great thing about Kendall and Kimberlin is that you pay out of pocket, you file your own insurance, but he doesn't let the insurance dictate your care. He cares for you like the old-fashioned doctors used to. Stay true to your convictions, do not waver. It would have been so easy to say, okay, I'm tired. I'll take Harry to the hospital because they can take care of him better than me. But you can't trust that anymore. I had an episode last summer, a medical emergency that I ended up in the hospital for about a week. The person that was affiliated with the hospital system that talked to me told me that they are told what to say about COVID, they are told how to say it, and they can't deviate or they will lose their jobs. So if you go to a hospital affiliated doctor, you're going to get the hospital's opinion, not your doctor's opinion. Think about that. And what drives that? Money. If you do get sick, do not sleep on your back. That's one of the things that went wrong with Harry. We didn't know he was that sick. He was sleeping on his back. So I was like, get off your back, you know?
So you've got a side sleep then?
Side, prop up,
Or prop up,
recliner,
like, yeah.
something. Don't lay on your back because it settles in your lungs.
Got it.
Get up and move daily. Stay hydrated. And then, the other thing, I'm a big detoxer. Take detox baths, 1 cup of baking soda, 1 cup of borax, 1 cup of Epsom salt for at least 20 minutes in as hot of water as you can stand. That is Dr. Carrie Madej's recommendation. I love her. I love her and I love Dr. Artis the most. But full body detox, if you are vaccinated or not, to get rid of pathogens, toxins, metals, all kinds of things. That bath right there will take care of it. And then dewormers that you think are only for your animals, fenbendazole, membendazole, ivermectin, all of those things work. Don't be afraid. I just went to Tractor Supply about 2 weeks ago and got some fenbendazole for goats. I mean, a parasite doesn't know that I'm not a goat, you know? So I just have some things out here that we use. We bought things too. We bought the oxygen concentrator. We've had the barometer for your finger. We have the lung exerciser. We have all these things because we might need it or we might need to pay it forward. So we'll loan these out. Yes.
Angie, you might want to mention a little bit about how dangerous it can be when you go on oxygen, that your lungs aren't getting exercised. And so sometimes they put you on too much and then you never recover because your lungs.
Yes. So being on oxygen, you can get acclimated to something else breathing for you. So we only use this at night, but then throughout the day, that's why this little gizmo right here is about $15. Can save your life, really, because you can practice all the time, even if you're healthy. Blow in.
It measures how much volume you're
It's a spirometer, a lung spirometer, lung exerciser. So you blow in, and this rises, and it shows you like your lung capacity. So you work on strengthening your lungs with this. I know I went over my time.
No, you're okay.
So I'll be around if anybody has questions afterwards. I'm happy to give my phone number out if anybody needs help, or if you're ever in distress. I am happy to loan out equipment because somebody did that for us and saved my husband's life. So, thank y'all.
I think people probably have questions, so if you want to hang on to the microphone.
Yeah.
That's on the oxygen.
Wait, ma'am.
The oxygen concentrator ran us about $300, $350, something like that. I bought the same one that was loaned to us just because I'd already learned to use that one, but I got that from Amazon. I think I got everything. Parker Medical Supply has the nebulizers, they're local. They probably have this too, and I think I ordered Amazon the thermometer. Yes, thermometer. I have that. And I keep it all this in case, yes, in case anybody has to borrow my stuff. I have extra masks, I have extra nasal cannulas, so I'm equipped.
Will all these presentations be available?
Is this available to?
Oh, sure, I'll send it to anybody.
Send it
It's on YouTube right now.
Yes.
So if you're on Signal, we have a site called Upstate MFEs, apostrophe S, meaning Medical Freedom Enthusiasts. So if you're on Signal, you can join that, and Andy can put that on there also. So Upstate MFE apostrophe S, meaning Upstate Medical Freedom Enthusiasts. So that's a Signal chat that a bunch of us put health stuff on there. When we have meetings, when we learn something, when something's legislatively important, when we're gonna have a rally, different things like that. Angie, what was the name of that pharmacy, Reliable what?
ReliableRxPharmacy.com.
What was the website again?
Reliable?
No, not called before.
It's on Signal.
And I don't like to give out my ivermectin stock, but if anybody's ever in a bind, I probably have some. Yes, sir.
Let's see, first thing I like to say is that, I'm as old as,
Can't hear you.
I'm as old as Biden is. And, so I go back a few years when this is what we did from the very beginning. The only thing we didn't use is the oxygen thing. I'd be careful of that oxygen thing. You really shouldn't use it over 2 hours. And if you get to that point, you've been wrong to begin with. You started out wrong. As soon as you have any inkling, you take the ivermectin and you get a Z-Pack in. And you take zinc along with that, and that provides a accelerant to all the other ones. And I found that, and there's 2 pharmacies in Mandarin that will provide you with the ivermectin if you want.
We did that, and I get what you're saying about that, because I know that can be tricky.
That can be dangerous because what's happening is your mitochondria in your lungs, in addition to killing the cells itself, the mitochondria are not producing the energy like they could. So they really can't take the oxygen, and oxygen is a poison. And so you've got to be careful with the level of oxygen. So that should be a last resort that you get. You should have, if you've done it right, you should never get to that point. And I can swear to that because I've had Legionnaire's disease. I've had from the time I was in the 50s, 1950s, I've had everything.
Well, I know, for the problem situation, I have an acupuncturist that I know is a respiratory therapist for 20 years. And she was saying what the hospitals were doing at the high level of oxygen, they were killing their patients.
That's right.
And she knew it right off.
I've got that documented.
So that's another issue, right? So in this situation, if you're talking to nurses and doctors that are leading you and, having help and stuff like that, with other help like that, I think that's like Rebecca is followed by Dr. Tran. Rebecca's a registered nurse. We have nurse practitioners that are helping in this situation to stay out of the hospitals because we've had people killed in the hospitals. I have a girlfriend that was literally, I was on the phone and we took the phone away from her with the CPAP on, and I said, get out of the hospital. She said, no, they're gonna let me go in 3 days and get out of the hospital. I said, don't let them give you remdesivir. And then the son on Facebook said, Mom's on a ventilator, and they gave her remdesivir, and she's dead in 5 days. So, and I saw them take the phone away from her with me on FaceTime. So I do not, nobody can tell me that this wasn't happening, besides what happened to Preston. I experienced it myself. Okay, so reliable RX, I use a Ukrainian animal veterinarian that has ivermectin in Ukraine. Somebody has India, so if you want to know later, I'm not going to put it on the
So I have a question for you or maybe anyone else. So I'm under the impression that 2 states, Tennessee and New Hampshire, you can get ivermectin without a prescription. So does anyone know anything about that? Can you just go into a pharmacy there and get it?
Has that happened in South Carolina yet?
No, but
There's a bill for that. If you push the bill, then we're done.
There we go.
Okay, I'm just curious, because I would try for you. I don't want it, so you have to like, so all I have is vague information, I'm not able to get it.
Maybe if you call the pharmacy.
Yeah, because we do have a list of the pharmacies to go to, so.
Oh, you can get ivermectin here in the States, though. I mean,
Yeah, we have to have a prescription.
yeah.
And I have used Reliable before, and they're fine, it took a little while, but.
Yeah, well, that's why it's prepared, right? So I guess I quickly, Mike, you have one more thing?
Let Dwayne go first.
Okay, go ahead, Dwayne.
Yeah, ivermectin has a short life on the shelf. It's only about a year.
Yeah.
So make sure,
Okay, so after that.
make sure that you keep it
So
current.
after that, then it.
Chase Medical, too.
Sorry?
Jace Medical, you can, but you have to get a doctor's prescription for that, but they'll send it to you too, so.
Mike?
There's
Yeah, I just wanted a little pop quiz here, is that, so who's responsible for our health and who's responsible for our freedom? Absolutely. And I think everyone want to drive that home because everything that we're doing locally, and as we come together like this, look at all this information we're all gaining from each other. And how we can help each other. You know, you can go somewhere. If you need something, there's a place to go. Keep that in mind, because we're all here to help each other.
Yes.
And so, and just remember that no one's coming to save us except God. And He's going to do that if we act in our faith. That's all I'm saying.
So when Andrew was mentioning the 3%, the hydrogen peroxide, so it's 3% food grade hydrogen peroxide, okay? Not just peroxide in the brown bottle that you get for 76 cents, okay? You go to Garner's. Garner's has a bottle you can buy hydrogen peroxide, 3%. You can nebulize that. There is ratios that you must use, but we have had many people saved by just doing that. Even if you have asthma, if you have the cold, if you have allergies, we have people that are very experienced with that. They're holistic practitioners. There's lots of, my magazine's up there from Locally Wrong, there's lots of holistic, integrative practitioners here that can help tremendously with all these different types of natural healing, that they know what they're doing to you and they can write prescriptions also. So, there's a lot of, I think that the Signal Group, a great avenue for that. 3% hydrogen peroxide, but there's ratios. Ask Garner's. All the people at Garner's are highly experienced. They're all certified natural health professionals like myself. They know what they got in the store, and they know what works.
And they have excellent coupons.
Yeah.
And several times a year, you can buy a gift card, for $75, it's $100 worth of, so you're getting 25% off. I stock up on those.
So we have everybody here in Greenville that can help. That, like, you don't have to go off to Asheville for anything. There's lots of people that are very highly skilled here that have healed many and saved many people's lives. Rebecca, there's a lot of IV vitamin therapies now, drip bar, Connie Casebolt does ultraviolet blood irradiation, Upstate Med Spa. I mean, they have saved people people's lives that were dying, that did phenomenal after a treatment or two. Yes,
With the peroxide, do you use the iodine?
I know some
Use
people
the
have used iodine, I have not, but you can use it, but I would still check, because you want atomized iodine, and, but you can even put that on your skin if you have, you know, you put on your skin to let it absorb into your skin that way too, but, or ozone, people are using ozone, which is really helpful. Dr. Palmer, the biological dentist, uses ozone for all healings, so all these doctors, kind of caseful.
I've recently read that you can take the food grade peroxide and rub it over your entire body, because what's the most porous part of your body is your skin, and it absorbs that way.
Well,
too.
and people taking baths, like you take a bath, like adding that to your detox bath, or bentonite clay is another one of Dr. Nadeja. Add half a cup, I think she says, of bentonite clay. You're pulling that junk out. Like Dwayne was saying, you're pulling that junk out. That's the way to get this stuff out. Detox, detox, detox. Just slowly. Don't go crazy. Do, you know, parasite cleanse, then do a detox once a week. You don't do it every single day, you'll be sick. You'll be sick because your body's like, what the heck is happening to me? Slowly, slowly. Dwayne?
I have to express some concern about your skin has its own biome of all different kinds of bacteria. You have more bacteria in your body than you have your body weight. And so you have to be careful to keep the good bacteria around, because that good bacteria will end up saving you from COVID. So you have to be careful about killing off your good bacteria. And if you're gonna be applying something, don't apply it to all your skin, because that'll destroy you, and you'll end up with some kind of skin disease, believe me, your gut's the same way. The best thing to do is keep a good biome in your gut.
That's right, microbiomes.
And that way, your gut is one of the main targets of COVID. And if you don't have a good biome, then all of the ACE2 that's in there will get ripped up, and you'll end up with a very difficult thing. If you keep your biome right, they'll take care of that. And besides, most of these shots now are containing the DNA that created the mRNA to begin with. And that DNA can get into your digestive system, and it's absorbed by the biome, and it takes care of it if you get it that way. So,
well, and a lot of people don't understand the biome thing. That's kind of way scientific for them. If you're not pooping right, you're not peeing right, you've got skin issues, there's an issue with your body telling you, your gut's telling you, your immune system's telling you there's something not right. So that's why it's like, again, go slowly, detox, go slowly, probiotics, but it's good to talk to people that kind of work in natural health, that can just get your whole body balanced. Mike?
One anytime you're doing what Dwayne was saying, he's absolutely right, is you can counter some of that with just taking a probiotic. And some, good ones.
Probiotic, Activia yogurt is not the key. You need 150 billion, 200 billion, you need lactobacillus, you got bifido, anti-coffee, so you it's good to ask, see what's popular, but look at these billions, not this 1 billion stuff, because your whole gut temperature is gonna be eaten up.
let me say one more thing. Vitamin D, which you need to have, and you get a lot of it out in the sun. I'm out in the sun about 4 hours a day because I have a big garden, because I self-support myself for food. But I also take D3, and we have taken that for a long time. But you need vitamin K.
K too.
You need the vitamin K. Now, I get the vitamin K from the kale in my garden, but most people don't, and some people have blood disease. Then you can't take the vitamin K. So you have to talk with somebody that knows all these vitamins. You just start taking a whole bunch of vitamin shots, you can kill yourself just with vitamins.
Any more questions?
Can you please repeat the Signal group name?
Okay, on Signal, it's Upstate space MFE.
MFE.
apostrophe S. And if you guys, if you,
It doesn't come up.
it doesn't come up.
And remember, you had to put me in.
Oh, that should, I don't think I have permission on it, or maybe there's some strict permission. Okay, so if you guys, most of you know me, text me, I wanna be in the signal room.
Already did.
Or if you're on signal anywhere, text me in the signal. Wonder why that is. Oh, okay.
Start C.
All right, any other questions? Signal is a messenger, private messenger, so it's an app. What does it look like? Has it, do you have it? You will look up Signal. What is your name on Signal? My name on Signal, I don't know. I think it's
Actually, it means.
I did start my feet today with my daughter.
Some things just.
Yeah, my tomatoes are.
I'll see you.
But I still have them.
Just stop by me and say, I'll give you guys
All little insects.
Yes. No.
Any other questions? So is this helpful to you guys? Do you feel like this is helpful, like you want more?
I got your messages. Hold on.
Okay.
When we do these meetings like that,
Yeah.
go through the material yourselves and write down everything that everybody's gonna ask for. Websites, phone numbers, group names, how to access them, make an info sheet.
Big tomatoes. This is like so expensive.
All right, you guys, so the next meeting, well, and this is, so medical freedom, I don't know, we'll see what happens at Dwayne. Hopefully we'll get information what happens at Dwayne's meeting. Dwayne, where will we see you? Like, what will that look like? Will you give out information afterwards? Tell us what
Well,
happened?
it's on audio on the Senate side,
Okay.
so you can listen to it, and then we'll be going around the whole area, visiting various, places
Meetings, places,
to
yeah.
give the presentation and give what happened as a
Okay.
result.
So we'll try to keep
There's
up.
so
And
much to
probably
give,
on
though.
greenvillegop.com and or no, mySCGOP.com.
Dwayne, where would you find the link to listen in? Do you know?
On the house.
Oh, it's on the Senate side.
Yeah.
And look under meetings, under the
So
Senate.
that would be SC
And it's a 12.
Statehouse
I think it's 12.
.gov, and then go to the Senate side. And you will see a medical affairs committee, or they'll tell you what meetings.
Go to meetings and then on the day.
And
And then you'll
sometimes they
see,
last 6 hours.
then you can click on
8
it.
hours. People have been at 10 o'clock in the morning and they'll start talking at 8 o'clock at night.
And they are recorded.
Starts at
They're
10.
recorded, yes. So, all right, thank you all.
Thank you.